You know, I haven't really made a video in a while, and I wasn't really expecting to make one because, like many of you that grew up in the 2000s and whatnot, playing a lot of these games that were once really big, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, Medal of Honor, Gears of War, Rock Band, Guitar, like so many of these games that we got at in multiple times in 1 year, which is pretty crazy to think about, right? Many of them have gone away or just simply downgraded so bad in terms of quality that you kind of feel yourself more and more distant from them, right? And I'm someone, for subscribers of mine that remember, I've competed in Gears of War, I competed in Call of Duty, and I competed in Halo. So before that, it was just like, okay, I want to get the highest score, or I want to get a nuke in Call of Duty or whatever, right? I want to do like the big thing at the time, in the early 2010s and whatnot. That was big, like pub stomping channels and stuff. And then when I went to competitive, it gave me a full-on, okay, now I understand the game from a casual perspective, from an intermediate, and from a competitive standpoint. And ever since then, it really has shaped my entire way of judging a game, because you see so many things when you do competitive, right? You're putting your own money on the line, or you have other people's money on the line as well, right? So you don't want to be that liability, you want to be an asset to the team. And so you're nerding out every year, especially with Call of Duty. When we compete, every single year you're getting a new title, so you would have to look at the new recoil patterns and all that stuff, right? And it forces you to look at a game within and trying to get any little competitive advantage you can, right? So over the years of doing these types of videos, rants, or I just call them honest reviews because that's all it is. I'm not ranting. I'm just saying it how it is. I'm not paid by these companies. I don't get flown out, personal flights and hotels covered and special access, and then information that the public doesn't have, so I can go make money on my own personal website and say, ooh, look at this sneak peek from behind the scenes, right? Because a lot of these shills that you see on, like, whether it's Charlie Intel or a bunch of these people in Halo or Gears of War or Call of Duty, they all like to say that, oh, they don't pay us. Well, they've been saying that for over a decade, yet they always, every single time a release happens or whatever, they're always saying, oh, thank you, and look at my special bundle I got, and look at what I got, new information, go to my website. And that all leads to clicks. That all leads to them getting money from people, right? Ad revenue, etc. Because you're getting exclusivity. And it's hilarious how you look at the new Halo CE coming out, right? And they couldn't even help themselves. Halo Studios, right? Let's really get into it, okay? We all know Halo's been through the ringer since 343 took it over, and it's amazing how there are still people that defend this game. I feel like every time I say this, it's like deja vu, because it's the same story. You wait 6, 5, however many years now between releases. Before, in Bungie era, we only had to wait, 3 years between games? 2001, 2004, 2004, 2007, yeah. That was pretty awesome, back then. But now it's like you're waiting over half a decade just to play a Halo game, and when you get it, you don't even get the features that came out in the 2000s. And yet, every single time, whether it's on Reddit and whatnot, you have to understand it's always the vocal minority that supports 343. I don't call them Halo Studios until they show us their first game that harkens back to what made a Halo special. Until then, they're in the same building. They have a lot of pretty much the same employees. A lot of the leads have been changed, but did the culture change? Did the design philosophy change? That's the bigger question, right? But, it's like, how is it that they've had this franchise for 15 years? They haven't released one single OG title. Game design philosophy. They haven't released one. And the games that they did release, they didn't really make it, but they released that has the OG mechanics, just from, Master Chief Collection and whatnot, and Halo CEA, they didn't turn out well. And it took also over half a decade for CE, or for MCC, to get fixed, right? well, fixed in quotations, because even though I still play it from time to time, there's a lot of people that still say, hey, there's still this wrong with it, still okay, but it wasn't in the shape it was 11 years ago. But besides those games, which they couldn't even get right, they haven't released one OG Halo experience. And this is what's crazy to me, right? Because, again, if you're watching this and you hate videos like this that are all like, oh, everybody's always negative about Halo, because I see those comments, it's like, no, we're just passionate. I have an entire collection of Halo stuff, from like the Joyride era to the Halo 3 Master Chief helmet. Like, I got all that stuff still, right? Because I grew up with Halo. I literally grew up with it. I have those crazy fun memories of 4-player split screen on those giant Mad Cat controllers. I mean, you guys remember this stuff. You got to play it. I grew up with it. I love Halo. It's always there, but I haven't played Infinite in a while, dude. And I put an insane amount of days into it, right? Trying to, do mainly competitive stuff, and it's just like, it's not fun. And there's so many issues where just like, dude, why, are we doing this again? And it's hilarious to me when I'm seeing all this debate with the Halo CE remaster or whatever, remake that they're doing. They can't even help themselves to add Sprint again to a game that did not have it. And there's already people highlighting the problems with that. They don't even rescale it, because if people don't if people don't understand game design, I've actually made a little game in Unreal, and so I've done a lot of self-study on it and stuff with that, and things you look at differently. You have to scale. That's why when you play Midship in H2 and you play Truth, which is just a variation of Midship in Halo 5, it's completely different. It's a completely different experience, okay? So if you don't understand that, then hopefully that was a very summarized way of describing the quick issue with that. It affects gun balancing, it affects, the map scaling, and it affects so many different things, right? Level design and whatnot. That's why a lot of people like myself have issues with Sprint, but also the fact that that is not what Halo's identity was. You have to understand, please go watch documentaries of the 2000s and how many studios you don't even hear about that came and went, that tried to battle it out with Call of Duty, battle it out with Halo, battle it out with Medal of Honor, and all these other games, right, that made it. They hit what's called lightning in a bottle. It is what its identity was. That is what set it apart from a different game, right? That's why Medal of Honor was not Battlefield. That's why Call of Duty was not Battlefield. They were their own distinct games. So when you have a successful run of an entire decade, of a generation like Halo Bungie era did, right? Even on their way out, many of them, if you watch documentaries and personal comments from some of the former Bungie devs, they were already thinking about Destiny. They were already thinking about different games or moving on in their career to different roles. That's why they didn't have a strong finish with the multiplayer of Reach, but the campaign was still really enjoyable, even with some of the lore changes, right? So that's if you didn't know that, But even with that, that's a very strong run that they had. Then you get new company, Bonnie Ross, who always, said multiple times, like, I could not let that go. We got to keep Halo going, right? And they even thought about changing the voice artists. They even thought about this and that, and it's just like, it's a whole lot to take in if you have time for it. But right away, they changed the art style. Think about the layup they could have had. Okay, fans did not like Spartan, the abilities and the sprint of Reach. All you had to do, because it was only 5 years, right, since Halo 3 at that point. All you had to do for a simple layup is say, we're going back to Halo 3. It hasn't been a decade. It hasn't been 2 decades. It's only been 5 years. Boom. You're right back on track. But instead, they immediately changed the art style for the sake of change. They immediately take elements of Call of Duty. They immediately say we hire people that hate Halo. They immediately do all of these things that did not make Halo great. So you have people like myself and most of the fans of the Bungie games simply stating, why do you not release a game that mimics or looks like the original games that were ultra successful? That's all we ask. And yet, every single time they release a game, specifically now, it takes over half a decade for a game to even release. That's a lot of time. We've gotten 2 Halo games in 10 years. That's actually crazy. It took the same amount of time for Halo 1 to Halo 3 as it did for Halo Infinite to release. If that doesn't worry you, then I don't know what will. And Counter-Strike, I'm going to end the video like this. Counter-Strike is a game that directly defeats all of these same tired responses from 343 fans. You can't have a game that's using data mechanics. Go look on Steam right now. Over 1.3 million players daily on Steam. And you know what that leads me to my next point? Oh, well, that's Steam. On Xbox, it's 20 times the player. You don't know that. You know how many times I've seen responses from these 343 fans that say, oh, it has 20 times the players on Xbox or 100 times. They all pull out these numbers, these figures that are completely made up. They're imaginary. They don't exist. You know why? Because Microsoft does not want to show you that. Certainly Halo Studios, quote unquote, does not want to let you see those numbers on Infinite. Right? And what's funny is, that was a feature we had during the Bungie era. In the 2000s, you could see how many players were online in any given playlist. Call of Duty took it out after Call of Duty Ghosts flopped, when the game before that, the GOAT Black Ops 2, had more players than the new game. Ever since then, haven't seen it back. And yet, CSGO has no sprint, no clamber, no abilities. But shouldn't a super soldier be able to use the... Okay, shouldn't a regular soldier be able to sprint, clamber? Yes. They should. But gameplay is an entirely different animal. It changes so many things. It's like Gears of War. Whenever you have the wall bouncing, your weapon balancing is so incredibly important in Gears of War. You know why? Because you can close off the distance very quickly. So if you make the Gnasher too powerful and you can wall bounce to somebody very quickly, it's a problem. If you balance the Gnasher right, while you can cut off the distance greatly, it's less of a problem, because it affects the way you can traverse around the map, affects level design, it affects weapon balancing. Okay? Counter-Strike has more viewers in a rerun of a live esports event than a live event from Halo. It has 1.3 million players daily with these quote-unquote dated mechanics that won't work in 2025. Yet somehow it keeps breaking its own player record. How does that make sense? Valorant copies CSGO. Right? It's essentially a reskin of CSGO with different aspects to it. No sprint, no clamber. Man, how does that succeed in 2025 too? You see, this is why I made this video, is because I don't make videos often. I just do it when I care enough to even get into it. And these people that say this every time, go look at the current Steam charts for Halo Infinite. You know how many players it has? 1,000. 1,000 players right now on the Steam chart. So you compare 1,000 with all these new sprint, this, blah, 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 and compare it to a game with all these quote-unquote data mechanics. It has 1.3. I thought it wouldn't work. I keep getting told that every year in these replies, or I see it on Reddit, from this small vocal minority who's in a echo chamber every year. These games keep flopping every time. They have super huge budgets, and they keep flopping every time. You have not made a single game Halo Studios 343. And so how do you know it wouldn't work? History says it would work. History says when you change all these core foundational mechanics and, aesthetics and all that stuff, right? When you change all of that, you change Halo, because that's not this current last 15 years. This is not what Halo was. This is not what made it hit lightning in a bottle. This is not what got it to the dance. And this is crazy that I have to even say some of these things because it's so obvious. Like, it's just common sense. You haven't had one game. And then people say, one of my other favorites is, well, look at MCC. MCC, by the way, has currently 3 times the players on Steam than Infinite. I just want to throw that out there. Well, look at MCC. Nobody wants to play that. Well, it plays more than the current game. And plus, it was broken for over half a decade. So, yeah, it's no wonder a lot of people abandoned it, because a lot of people I talked to still don't even know he got a bunch of patches. That's what damage does to your game. Bad PR. When it doesn't arrive fixed, when it doesn't arrive in good shape, when the people expect features to be there that were once there over a decade plus ago, you kind of throw a lot of people out, so to speak, or turn them off, right? And I feel like this is just a good way to end the video, because it's very basic to point this out, and we're getting a remaster of a remaster. It's deja vu of Gears of War Reloaded. Gears Reloaded right now is already dead. It's already dead. If you go to the Gears of War Twitter, they're completely radio silent. They have not tweeted anything in over a month related to fixing anything or anything like that. They're done. The game's in terrible shape, tons of broken bunch of problems with the game. Don't have to even get into that. And they're gone. Just to drum up some hype for PlayStation. Same thing this game's Halo CE remake is doing for next year. Is that going to lend itself to anything substantial? I mean, history shows it hasn't, because they've had how many chances now? And it's the same problems over and over, making unnecessary changes for the sake of change, and a lot of us are just tired of it, because we're getting older. I mean, a lot of us are still in our 20s, we're still young and whatnot, but, we're not aged out in the sense that, we can't keep up anymore. That's not true. It's just a lot of us are tired of getting burned, because when you're 20, and then you have to wait another 5-6 years to play again, you're in a different phase of your life. You're not in college or whatever anymore. You're doing something completely different. And then certainly when you're mid-20s, now you're going to be in your 30s and so on. It's such huge leaps of time. And it gets tiresome, because it's just a disappointment every single time. And with Battlefield coming out, look at what that's doing for Call of Duty. Call of Duty has finally some actual competition, and Battlefield is saying, hey, remember Battlefield 3 that was fun? Remember Battlefield 4? Remember Bad Company 2? And then you see at the drop of a hat, Call of Duty saying, no more scriptless matchmaking, lobbies stay together, right? Now they're doing nostalgia bait marketing. Hey, remember these features that worked and we took them out for no apparent reason for so many years? Now, all of a sudden, when Battlefield comes out, marketing on, hey, this is what used to work and was fun that we just cut out for no apparent reason. And then Call of Duty's jumping on board, trying anything and everything to market for Black Ops 7. It's amazing, right? Because it always goes back. The pendulum always swings back. So I just had to get this out there because, I've watched a bunch of these long-form Halo videos lately, and it's been pretty depressing. So you guys leave me your thoughts down below. Leave a like, share this video, comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.